Get ready to see Charlie Kirk absolutely obliterate a leftist who, wait for it, thinks abortion is self-defense. Yes, guys, it's not a joke. We have gotten to that point of insanity. Now we have members of the left arguing that it is self-defense to end the life of an innocent baby. How do we get there? I have no idea. It's insane. But we're gonna get right into it, guys, and I would say it's gonna be a lot of fun, but it's a little bit disturbing, but that's okay. Let's get into the clip. But first, everybody, please help me out and like our video, share it around, and if you're new, subscribe to the Resistant Mainstream YouTube channel so we can keep bringing you guys this great content. As always, everybody, I'm your host, Darian. Let's go.
I'm a leftist, but I found common ground with you on abortion, and that I completely agree that, you know, whatever you want to call it, a fetus at whatever stage it is, it's alive. There's no contention on that front. My concern, though, and I want to hear your perspective on this, is here in Texas, we have the strictest abortion ban in the whole country. There's no exception for rape or incest or for the life of the mother after 6 weeks. My concern is that the government is mandating that people carry out their pregnancies even when it goes against their own life and their own well-being. I can take an example of if somebody's threatening to harm you, you have a right to self-defense. Why not have give the same autonomy to people who are pregnant?
Okay, thoughtful question, thank you. So, first thing is, if you believe abortion is wrong, which you admitted it is, well then you should obviously have laws that...
I'll clarify, I didn't admit that abortion was wrong.
Okay,
I said
yeah,
I
please
see
clarify.
it as a form of self-defense.
Okay, right, so that's a new one.
Well, as the previous person says, that person inside of you is completely dependent on you in a way different than a natural-born child.
So in most cases, rape and incest aside, how did that being get there?
I mean, in most cases, through sex, regardless of rape or incest.
Yeah, so there was a choice made.
I see your point. Even with a choice, let's say you invite someone into your home and they still decide to assault you. Does that mean you not have a right to self-defense against them?
Well, no, I think that, for example, if you have a bunch of teenagers over to your home and they start wrecking everything, you shouldn't be shocked when all of a sudden you wake up the next morning and things are a little awry.
But we're not just talking about wrecking a home. We're talking about wrecking your own body, your own personal autonomy.
Well, hold on. Again, rape and incest aside, of which I'm happy to answer and happy to talk about the moral aspect of that, but 98% of all abortions are done as a form of birth control, right?
Sure.
It's a form of birth control. How did those people get pregnant?
Usually through consensual sex.
Right. So they are pro-choice. They made a choice to have consensual sex, and now they want to be able to use scientific medical technology to crush a being that is not them, is a different person out of convenience.
That self-defense claim is really something special. Can't say I've heard that one before, so hats off to him. I will say, that argument about the self-defense thing, it kind of reminds me of an argument I've unfortunately held numerous times, in that a fetus is a parasite and, you know, therefore it's okay to end its life or something. That's usually what the premise is. And I really can't help but think it's the same kind of reasoning around here, because this whole idea is essentially to dehumanize a human baby, suggest it's okay to get rid of it because, well, you know, it's not really alive or it's a parasitic animal, whatever. And by the way, a fetus is not a parasite. That is objectively a false statement, despite what some people may try to argue, even some in the so-called scientific community. I shouldn't even have to explain it, but there are several very obvious reasons that you can share to show that a fetus is not a parasite. For one, it's the same species as the host being the mother. It has to be a different species to even qualify in the first place. So it's not that. Also, if you're going to talk about the symbiotic relationship here between the so-called parasite, which a fetus is not, and its host, at the end of the day, there are benefits for a mother to have a baby. People will say, well, there's no benefit. She gets more tired, it saps energy, whatever. Okay, how about the fact that the baby continues on her bloodline, which is one of the most important functions of being a human, being able to have your bloodline continue. That is a mutually beneficial thing, whether you want to admit that and it suits your agenda or not. It just is what it is.
Let's say you have a child who needs a kidney transplant and you are the only one who can supply it. And you consensually allow them to use that kidney. What if the operation goes too long? They're still kind of using your blood for months on end. Should the government mandate, you know, maybe not kidney?
I love these hypotheticals. I got it. Not making fun of you.
See where,
no,
you see
earlier
where I'm
I got
going.
the most amazing hypothetical. We don't have to overthink this. Like, why should children get the death penalty because their parents decided to have consensual sex. I don't understand that.
Sir, even if you consent to, say, taking care of your child through the, transfusing blood or whatnot, should the government mandate that you have to continue that consensual blood transfusion?
Again, under the unrealistic hypothetical, and I reject the whole premise of this. The question is, let me answer it more broadly. Do I think the government should step in to protect and preserve human right, be it by mandating, especially when the question is termination or not? Of course, the answer is yes. But it says a lot when there's a very serious, concrete question, and kind of we have to yield to these abstractions, which is fine. The philosophical sides and the kind of the hypotheticals are fine, are legitimate, I suppose, in some sense. But it comes to be just more concrete, right? We've got 1 million abortions every single year. Okay, 998,000 of them are because of a form of birth control. Do you find something wrong with that?
Not necessarily.
Okay. I think there is something wrong with that. I think that just looking at the last resort to be able to terminate human life as a form of birth control is not just sick, it's immoral. And it says a lot about who we are as a people and kind of the folding of culture, folding of a cultural life in our nation. And so I'll just...
Amen. And these hypotheticals just get so absurd, it's insane. You guys ever heard about the violin example? That's what that dude just said reminds me of. This violin hypothetical, for those who may not be familiar, basically says that one day you wake up and you're tied to an unconscious professional violinist who's one of the best in the world, and they've been transfusing your blood out of your kidneys because his kidney failed, and if you detach yourself right now, he will die. But if you don't, for 9 months, he will come to life. So should you be forced by the government to be attached to him for 9 months? That is actually their gotcha against the pro-lifers over here. Some ridiculous hypothetical that just doesn't exist. But for the heck of it, we're going to engage with that hypothetical for a second, even though it's totally absurd and would never happen. So let's just say this did happen. Well, first of all, you didn't consent to getting tied to the violinist and getting your kidney jacked. So that's the start of it, okay? Getting pregnant is a very different thing, especially when you consider that over 99.9% of abortions do not involve a sexual assault of some kind. So those are very obviously consensual. But despite the extreme logical fallacies and holes in that, people nevertheless will try to argue it. I can just see that atheist right now on Reddit just typing up the violent example with a grin on his face. Aha! Conservatards destroyed! Pro-life is full of hypocrites and hoaxers. Right. It's really something.
I'll just ask one final question. When does human life begin?
It begins at conception, but that doesn't override the right to bodily autonomy and self-protection.
Okay, so that's interesting. So it does begin at conception. So does that mean someone who is larger than another being has the right to terminate them? Because why is it bodily autonomy? Just because the being is in them?
The size doesn't matter. It's the self-defense. If a toddler is running a knife at you, you can knock it down. I'm sorry, I'm kind of impromptu here as we keep going.
That's okay, yeah. Well, so I'll just close with this. Don't use that analogy again.
Yeah, no, that was a bad one.
The absolute irony of this guy talking about the baby being the one who's wielding the knife and committing a violent act. Oh, that's rough. I don't think anybody is ever going to let the poor guy live that down. Brutal. With all that being said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We really hope you liked the video. Please be sure to comment below. Let us know what you liked about the clip, what kind of stuff you want to see in the future, and we'll see you guys again soon. Thanks, and God bless.